the contents, and the requirements in terms of what is expected of you as participants. And then after that, we'll do a quick recap of modules 1 and 2, which basically are the focus of today's webinar. Then, once we've finished the recap, we will jump into the substantive presentations, again, focusing on modules 1 and 2. We have 2 experts online who will be delivering and sharing some practical experience from their side. They both come from Statistics Norway, and we will introduce them when we get to that part of the agenda. And in the last 15 minutes, we will move to the Q&A segment, at which time we will address any questions you have and any other comments that have been posted in the chat box. This e-learning course was developed collaboratively between the United Nations Statistics Division, the Collaborative on Administrative Data, as well as CEP. And so at this point, I would like to invite Mr. Seiji Takata, who is the Deputy Director of CEP, to deliver opening remarks. Takata-san, let me stop sharing so you have full screen. And over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Shinovia. And thank you for the fellow participants and their colleagues from Statistics Norway, from United Nations Statistics Division, and collaborating with administrative data, and of course, CEP. And dear participants, good morning and good afternoon and good evening. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you to this webinar for the e-learning course on using administrative data to produce official statistics. My name is Seiji Takata, Deputy Director of the United Nations Statistics Institute for Asia and the Pacific, UNCEP. National Statistics Offices, NSO, have traditionally based on production of official statistics on 3 fundamental data sources: census, household surveys, and administrative records. While there is a broad recognition of the value of administrative data for producing official statistics, significant variation remains across NSOs in the context to which they rely on this source. Moreover, practice and approaches for using administrative data records for statistics purposes are often inconsistent. As you would appreciate, the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, rely heavily on diverse data sources, including administrative data, to monitor progress and inform decision-making. Administrative data are essential for several SDG indicators, including, among others, indicators under SDG 3, good health and well-being, SDG 4, quality education, and SDG 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. It is against this backdrop that this e-learning course using administrative data to produce official statistics was developed in collaboration with our colleagues from the United Nations Statistics Division, UNSD, and the Collaborative Administrative Data, CAD. This course is the second of this kind, and it being offered again in response to the high level of interest generated by the first edition, reflecting a continued commitment to strengthen technical capacity in this area. CEP greatly valued in its ongoing partnership with UNSD and CAD, which has enabled the joint delivery of this e-learning course program for a second year. Today's webinar is the first in a series of accompanying this e-learning course. I'm pleased to note that the course has brought together a diverse group of participants from national statistics offices, line ministries, academia, other government agencies, and international organizations. In concluding, I wish you every success in this course. I encourage you to participate actively, whether through your comments and questions during the live webinars or through the online message board. It is my hope that this course will meaningfully enhance your skills and knowledge how to better harness the power of administrative data for producing official statistics, ultimately contributing to stronger evidence-based policy making and decision making. I wish you all a fruitful and enriching learning experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Takata-san, for those welcome remarks and for providing some context on this course. So at this point, we are going to receive greetings from the United Nations Statistics Division. Due to the time difference, they are unable to join us, so we have a recorded message here from Yong-Yi Min, who is the Acting Chief of the Development Data and Outreach branch. My colleague is going to run that video at this point.
Dear colleagues, it's a pleasure to be with you today through this recorded message to introduce this facilitated version of the e-learning course on the use of administrative data for statistical purpose. My name is Yong-Yi Min. I'm the Acting Chief of the Development Data and Outreach Branch at the UN Statistical Division in New York. This is the second time we're delivering this facilitated course following its launch last year. The course was developed to support countries in strengthening their capacity to effectively use administrative data for official statistics. We were very encouraged by the strong interest and positive feedback received, which demonstrated both the relevance of the topic and the demand for practical guidance. Building on this momentum, reaching an even wider audience this year is particularly important. The course is a result of a truly collaborative effort. It draws on the contributions and expertise of many members of the statistical community, and in particular on the Collaborative on Administrative Data, an initiative led by the UN Statistical Division together with partners that bring together countries, international and regional organizations, and other stakeholders to advance the use of administrative data for official statistics. As many of you are aware, administrative data offers significant opportunities to improve the timeliness, granularity, and cost efficiency of statistical production, while reducing response burden. At the same time, their effective use requires strong institutional coordination, clear data sharing frameworks, and adequate technical capacity. So this course has been designed precisely to address this need. The content has been progressively developed and refined through consultation with countries and experts, and tested through in-person workshops in several countries, ensuring that its response to real challenges facing in practice. The transition to an online format is an important step forward. It provides countries with flexible access to materials that can support both individual learning and institutional capacity development. We are very grateful to everyone who contributed to this course. In particular, we would like to thank CF, our main partner in organizing the course, as well as UN Women, who provided the French translation, making it accessible to even more participants. We also extend our thanks to all members of the Collaborative on Administrative Data and the participants of the in-person workshop whose feedback helped shape the course into this current format. So we wish you a fruitful learning experience and look forward to seeing the innovative ways you will apply this insight in your work. Thank you very much.
Okay, so at this point, I'm going to share my screen again, so we could carry through with a few reminders related to the structure of the course. Okay, just give me a minute to do that. Can you all see my screen now in presentation mode? Yes. Okay, so the just of we know that we would have shared beforehand the concept note for this course, and we hope that you had a chance to read it. But there are a few things that we want to highlight about the structure and the contents to make sure that we are all on the same page. So the first thing we want to say and to remind you of is that the content of this e-learning course is contained in 6 interactive modules that are available both in in French and English. And all participants of this course are expected to read and complete in the language of their choice. Obviously, if you are a French speaker, we would expect you to do the French and not the English, which would be your preference, right? So the titles of the modules are laid out here on the screen. And all of the interactive modules are available through the CAP e-learning portal. Instructions on how to access this portal and, of course, the e-learning materials were shared with you via email. So we hope that you have enrolled. But if you have not, we are going to share the link again with instructions on how to enroll through the chat box. So please, if you haven't done so, please do that at the soonest, hopefully by the end of this week. As you know, this course began on the 6th of April, and is going to run through 5 weeks through the 8th of May. And each week we will open 2 new modules. And so besides the interactive modules that are available through the e-learning portal, we also will have some complimentary webinars. And the first one is being held today, which is what you're attending right now. And then we will have 2 other webinars on the 15th of April and again on the 22nd, all at the same time, which is 4 p.m. Japan Standard Time. So please mark your calendars and look out for emails from us with more details on how to join. Of course, we will try to have the webinars running for 60 minutes, but there are times when, depending on the level of discussion, we may need to run a little bit over. So we beg your indulgence if we do go a little bit overboard. We also want to remind you about what we expect you to do during the 5 weeks of this course. The first commitment that we want to reiterate is that you need to access and study the modules that again are available through the e-learning portal. And then within each module, you have some knowledge checks and other activities to reinforce your understanding. So try to do that within the allotted time. In addition to that, we encourage you to use the discussion forum to post questions and to interact with your peers, and also to attend the live webinars if you are able to do so. If you are unable to do so because of the time zone or because of other commitments, you can watch the recordings and they will be posted on the e-learning portal within by the next day. Finally, in the last week of the course, in the 4th week of the course, on the 27th of April, we will be opening up the final assessment, which you'll be expected to do. So to qualify for a certificate, you will need to attain at least 70% on the final assessment and complete the feedback form. So again, we will remind you of those activities as we run through each webinar. And if you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. So with that, I will now try to quickly do a recap of modules 1 and 2. And module 1, as you would recall, focused on what is administrative data and why it matters. Module 2 focused on how to systematically map out data sources. And in module 1, we introduced the fictional characters, Matthew, who is from the NSO of Estesia, Sarah and Amara, who are from the Ministry of Tourism. And these characters will appear throughout the modules, and they will help us in delivering the technical content through storytelling. Now, in module 1, we focused on a lot of the foundational concepts. So we try to clarify what constitutes administrative data, which by now, if you have read the modules, you'll understand that administrative data is data that are collected and maintained by entities in government and public and private sector, primarily for operational and legal purposes, and then it can be reused as a source of official statistics. In the module, we also discuss distinguish between the different types of administrative data. So for example, we have data that is reported by individuals or businesses. So for example, for legal compliance or access to services, like in the civil registration system, you have birth records for business registration forms. And then we also have the second type would be the data capturing administrative decisions. For example, persons who are accessing welfare benefits or for the issuance of permits. And the third type would be data generated through programs that are run by the government, for example. So basically it covers like service delivery. And it's important for us to know the distinction between those different types, because that impacts the quality, the coverage, and as well as its potential use for statistical purposes. In addition to that, beyond the what, we also learned why administrative data is important. So in the module, you will understand some of the key features of administrative data. Some of them include the timeliness, which is how quickly the data can be accessed and made and used for official statistics. Cost effectiveness, because obviously there are lower associated costs for collection, unlike what you would have for a traditional census or survey. Other features such as it provides more lower level detail because you have information being collected at the subnational or lower geographic areas, and reducing respondent burden. And then we also in module 1 look at who the key entities involved in the production of administrative data, because we already know that it's produced by entities outside of the National Statistical Office. And so one of the first entities that we speak about is what we call the administrative data holder, which would be the entity that collects and maintains this administrative data. And then the other key actor within the National Statistical System that's involved is, of course, the National Statistical Office that transforms this administrative data into official statistics. And then, of course, we have the users of data that drive the demand and provide feedback. And in the module, we also delve a little bit deeply into what are the enabling conditions and the factors that are necessary to support the use of administrative data. And we emphasize things such as strong coordination within the National Statistical System, the existence of clear legal frameworks that support data sharing between the data holders and the national statistical producers. In terms of, we also look at elements of data quality, adherence to statistical standards, and maintaining trust and confidentiality. And other key aspects of related to the production of official statistics, such as compliance with principles of data production and comparability. And in the module, we also do have a few case studies that you can use to see how that is done in practice. So quickly, I will move on to what we looked at in module 2, which, as I said, focused on the mapping of administrative data. And so in that module, we look at the approach that is used for identifying existing sources of administrative data, which includes the types of information that are available, what variables are contained within those data sources, and how they can potentially be used for official statistics. We also introduced the mapping tool that was developed by the Collaborative on Administrative Data, which provides a practical starting point for the mapping exercise. And if you have already got into module 2, you will also get access to the mapping tool, which is an Excel file that contains a series of guiding questions that helps the data producer, which is the NSO, get insights into the key characteristics of the data source, such as the variables that are contained within that data source, what it covers, what's the coverage, the format of that data, whether it's collected electronically or in paper form, other aspects related to data sharing, and quality considerations that we need to know of before we can reuse it for statistical production. And in that module, you also get a chance to see how that tool is used to when there's collaboration between the data holder and the National Statistical Office, both in the hypothetical example where we look at the collaboration between the NSO of SDIJA and the Ministry of Tourism, just sort of to guide you through how that Excel file can be used for the mapping exercise. But in addition to that, we also have some practical applications in cases such as Bhutan for mapping education data, in South Africa for electoral systems, and New Zealand live event data. So that captures, in a very small nutshell, the key takeaways from the first two modules of the course. And those are the key conceptual concepts that you need to at least understand as it relates to working with administrative data. And so at this point, we will move from the concepts now to more practice. And we will start by inviting our experts who will now share their country experience and practical applications in the case of Statistics Norway. So I will invite the first speaker, who is Vebjørn Alansid, and I will also stop sharing my screen so that you can share yours while I do the introduction.
We moved it around because I was asked to speak about the collaborative, so we thought we start with that, and then I give the word to Vebjørn, if that's okay.
That's perfect for me. So I will start by introducing Celia, and she's wearing two hats today. She is both representing Statistics Norway, but also a member of the collaborative on administrative data. So Celia is currently working as a senior advisor for Statistics Norway in the section for International Development Cooperation, mainly related to the use of administrative data and population statistics. Previously, she supported the collaborative on administrative data as a consultant for UNSD and UN Women, and she was very instrumental in developing this e-learning course, a toolkit on administrative data quality and also advocacy for administrative data use. Before that, she worked with Statistics Denmark for a number of years. So Celia, the floor is yours. Please proceed to share your screen.
Thank you so much, Synovia. Just give me a moment. I think it took a while before.
Yes, it does take a few seconds to load.
So mine is in full screen. I hope it comes up on yours as well.
Not as yet. Not as yet. Just give it a few seconds. I think it will load shortly. There we are.
Yeah, I'm sitting
Over
very remotely in Namibia at the moment. So also let me know if you can't hear me properly, then I'll switch off my video.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
so good morning, good day, and good evening, everybody. It's a great honor to be invited to speak at the first session of your course. And as Synovia said, two hats. So I will be speaking about the collaborative to begin with, because my colleagues are still sleeping in New York. And the collaborative on administrative data, for all of you that are interested and not a member yet, is a very great place to meet others that are interested in administrative data, to share experiences, and also learn about what is out there in terms of tools and resources. So we will just, I'll spend a little bit of time on explaining more about it. It's a multi-stakeholder collaborative, so it consists of members that are countries, like from statistical offices mainly, but then also regional and international agencies. And it aims to strengthen capacity of countries to use administrative data sources for statistical purposes. It exists since 2020. And I think what is so special is that it addresses challenges that are identified by its members. So it's very key that the members, they play an active role, and they say what is missing at the moment in terms of tools, guidance documents, and yeah, whatever else there is needed to work with administrative data. And then also the idea is that it contributes to raise awareness about the benefits of sharing and using administrative data sources, to enhance the quality, timeliness, coverage, and level of disaggregation of statistical data. And what I've seen now in the 6 years that it's existed, it's really a great platform for collaboration and for sharing resources, for making connections also between the different regions, learning about best practices in the different countries, and just of colleagues' experiences. And yeah, there is a QR code, and I guess you received the slides, so you can go on the website as well and explore more. It's at the moment organized into 3 teams. So there's one team that is looking specifically at the institutional framework, coordination, and partnerships. Then one at data management and standardization. And the last one is more IT focused on technical interoperability and data linking. And all these 3 teams, they were also identified by the members in the very beginning as areas that were quite key when working with administrative data. And then next to this, there's also a lot of cross-cutting work happening between the teams and more broadly. And now, yes, and I think what could be interesting for you, and the course is one of the products of the work of the collaborative. There are quite a few more. The many tools and materials that are available on the webpage. And you can see in the small pictures, for example, there's an MOU guide and a template for developing MOUs. Then there's an assessment tool that allows you to look at your statistical legal framework and how it facilitates or not the sharing of administrative data. Then a toolkit on assessing the quality, and yeah, there's much more. So I think this as well you can find on the webpage, and it's nice to explore for all of you that are interested in digging further into this. And all of it has been developed by the members and in collaboration with the members of the collaborative. And then something else of interest is the inventory of resources. It's where we try to collect all the materials and guidance documents and tools and what is available when it comes to administrative data work, also some country case studies, and you can browse around and look for what you think is useful to you. We're at the moment updating it, so there might be some technical problems from time to time, but we hope that it gets even better and makes it easier for you to find the materials. And also, if you have anything that you do not find in the inventory, we're very interested in hearing about it, because we're happy to include whatever is relevant for for administrative data and statistics. And I think, yes, so we've included this as well. You will receive that. There's a lot of other resources. I mentioned the MOU guide. It's the specific tools. Then we also we have an IT architecture guide that is quite of interest for a lot of countries. Something on data linking, and there is a lot of work ongoing for metadata guidance as well. And then you can see there are quite a few webinars that are interesting for, when it comes to specific areas, quality. There's always topics that are being addressed. And this is just to give you a quick overview, because the course was developed in connection with the collaborative, and there is a lot more to explore for you beyond the course. But I don't want to take more time on speaking about that, and I'll give the word to Vebjørn. to speak a bit more about a country experience of using administrative data. And then I can afterwards, if there's time, speak a little bit more about 2 practical experiences on mapping of data sources. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Celia. So let me just do a quick introduction of Vebjørn as he's loading his slides. So Mr. Vebjørn Alansid is a Senior Advisor in Statistics Norway Division for Development Cooperation. He holds an MA in Politics from the University of Warwick, United Kingdom. He has held different positions in Statistics Norway from 2000 up until today, working with population, migration, and refugee statistics. The last years, he has worked on several international cooperation projects, and from 2009 to 2011, he was seconded to Eurostat, which is the official statistical office of the European Union. So over to you now, Vebjørn, for your presentation. We can see your screen clearly.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Zenobia. What I will do for the next 10 minutes or so, I will talk about the Norwegian specific experience in using different administrative registers to produce official statistics. And I'll say a little bit about how we cooperate with the data owners. I first must say that this is one way of doing it. Each country has to find its own kind of pace and way of using administrative data for official statistics. But what I hope is that maybe there are some lessons that can be picked up and used that you can also use in your national context. Because what I will go through in a very short period of time is 60 years of history in Norway on how we have moved from having a traditional way of producing statistics using censuses, traditional censuses and traditional surveys, to more or less now relying more and more on use of administrative data. So first, a few words about the Norwegian statistical system. We have a very centralized statistical system in Norway, where we are in Statistics Norway, SSB, is responsible for around 85% of all official statistics. And the production of statistics in Norway has increasingly moved away from the traditional censuses and the traditional surveys, and are now more and more based on different administrative registers. We don't have an exact number on it, but we estimate that around 90% of all the statistics, all the official statistics that we produce in Statistics Norway, they come from different administrative registers. And even the few surveys that we do, they also, in essence, rely on the registers, because the registers are the starting point for the sample surveys. And all this, it really started with the development and introduction of a computerized central population register and the introduction of a unique ID number for all residents of Norway in 1964. So roughly 60 years ago, all residents in Norway were given a unique ID number. And this has later spread from statistics on individuals, on persons, to also to other areas such as enterprises and real property. In 1995, a unique ID number for all legal entities were introduced. And in 2001, a unique dwelling number was introduced for all dwellings in Norway. So then, together, we then established 3 registers on persons, on legal entities, which means businesses, and on addresses. And these 3 base registers form the foundation of the Norwegian statistical system. We've tried to visualize it here, where you can see the business register is up in the left corner. It's called the Central Coordinating Register for Legal Entities, which is basically then all businesses in Norway, from the smallest one to the largest one, are gathered there, and with a unique ID number. in the middle, we have the address register, where all dwellings and addresses have a unique ID code or a unique address number. And in the right-hand corner, we have the national registry, or the National Population Register, which contains data on everyone who lives or has lived in Norway, and where all residents of Norway have been given a unique ID number. Then this is the starting point. And then based on this, we have formal agreements with some 30 plus owners of administrative data, which again gives access to more than 100 different administrative registers. And during the course of the year, whether it could be daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and also yearly, we receive around 190 different data deliveries that come to Statistics Norway. And data are linked using the ID numbers that are held in the base registers. The ID numbers on persons, on businesses, and on addresses. We still have some sample surveys, but we only use these to supplement the information that is not covered already in the registers. And I have here a slide that shows the different sources of administrative data that are given to Statistics Norway, and that we receive data from. So I'll show a little bit more on how these base registers, how this looks from Statistics Norway perspective. And I'll start with the population register. So we have the population register, which is located in a different institution. It's in the tax administration. They own the National Population Register. And then we have an exact copy of the population register that we have direct access to. But in addition to this, we create our own statistical population register that we can use to produce statistics, and it's really the basis of our population statistics, but also other statistics on persons in Norway. And this is the principle that we use for all of these base registers. We have direct access to the administrative source. We get a copy of this that we hold in Statistics Norway, and then we create our own statistical version of the register that adds value to the data, and where we can add additional variables that we can use to produce statistics. So how this then works in Norway is that we link the data from the statistical population registers to all these other subject matter registers in the Norwegian society. So we can start off with the base, the statistical population register, and then we can link this to data on the labor market, on education, on income and wealth, national insurance, but also as a basis for our surveys. We still have some surveys on topics that we cannot derive from the registers, for instance, on perceptions and on what people think. These are data that we can't really get from the registers, but this we can ask persons about. But then we use the statistical population register as a sampling frame for drawing those samples for the surveys. And all of these systems, all of these registers, they use the same ID number, and it's used in all the registers. And this way of working is also the same approach that we use when it comes to our surveys and our data on businesses, where we use the statistical business register and link these data to other more subject matter registers in order to produce statistics. So this is in a very short time, I've described how we have organized the use of administrative data in Norway, and we have spent more than 60 years on doing so, and we have now reached the stage where a lot of our statistics is then based on this. We have the three base registers that form the basis of this: the national registry, population registry, the central coordinating register on businesses, and the cadastre on dwellings and addresses. And also that we have these formal agreements with different data owners, and we have access to the administrative registers that enables us to produce statistics from this. And all these registers are linked using the unique ID numbers for persons, legal entities, and dwellings. So in a very short time, I've now described the Norwegian system. This is not a system that is easily replicable, but I think there are still elements of this that can be used in your national context, and where going through the course, you will get a lot of input in how you can use different data to produce official statistics, and how a country can move, as we have done, from relying more or less 100% on the traditional censuses and the traditional surveys to more and more start using administrative registers. So with that, I will stop my presentation and hand it over again to Silja. Thank you.
Yes, and Synovia, please let me know when we're running out of time. I'll just very briefly to wrap it up, because now the participants have heard about a system that is very heavily based on registers. And we thought it could be useful just to say that you can also, of course, start smaller. And I think there are the two examples that you have in the course. I was involved in the mapping of one of the data sources with the Electoral Commission in South Africa. So I will just share my screen again and say a few words very briefly, and then we can open it for questions and the wrap up. But just to take you through what you can do, even though you don't have a huge register-based system, is to look at what you have already. And now the examples in the course, Bhutan and South Africa, are just two examples. We've also done some really interesting work in the Dominican Republic on mapping data systems, and the Namibian colleagues have done some really interesting work when it comes to agricultural statistics. And I think all of that showed that if you sit together with the different data holders and really do some detective work and try to map out systematically what kind of data is available, what variables are in the different, if it's databases or however the data is stored, understand how it's being collected. You can see here in this example that it's some of it comes in at the local level, and what are the different, like some of it is school systems that weren't even clear to all the colleagues when we did the mapping exercise existed, and then through communication with the different ministries, they found out, yeah, there's actually quite a lot of data that is specific to the school system that will help us produce the national education statistics if we include it. And this is just to show you that this we try to do it, this was a colleague of mine, but to do it quite systematically in dialogue between the statistics office and then the different ministries that are involved. In this case, it was the education ministry mainly, just to see how the data is collected from the very beginning, how it's being passed on in the system, where there is validation happening, what kind of variables are in the different data systems. And yeah, this one was for education, and then the next one was on electoral data. And there as well, it was a lot of conversations with the different stakeholders involved. How is the data being collected? And for both of these very systematic mapping exercises, we use the mapping template that you're being introduced to in the course. So just very briefly, I don't want to speak more about it, but to say you don't need to start out with the aim of having a huge register-based statistical system. You can see what you have available, and then quite often it's useful to start out with the data sources that are, for example, available in an electronic form already, and where there's a lot of willingness from the counterparts in the ministries to have a conversation. And then once you have a very good example with one of those data sources, it's also easier to convince other ministries that this is maybe something that can be of benefit to everybody. Yes, this was very briefly from me. I stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Celia, for this. I mean, I think you've done good justice to these two case studies. They were presented in the in Module 2, but I think you've helped to bring them to life. And let me also just say thank you to Vivian for his very thorough presentation. I think we appreciate that it's difficult to share in just 20 minutes what has been done over 60 years, which is the experience that the Statistics Norway has honed over that time. So I sincerely appreciate that. And I just wanted to pick up on one of the points that Vivian mentioned in his presentation that looked at, we know that about 85% of the data that is produced by Statistics Norway, and that there's a strong reliance on these population registers and business registers. But a key point that you raised, Vivian, is that you still conduct surveys, because in the discussion forum, one person raised the question about whether administrative data can replace surveys, and I think I hope that person is online and able to hear you. That administrative data captures factual data, but we still need surveys for those perceptions and understanding what people think, because we don't capture that through administrative data sources. So I really appreciate that you brought that out. We have several questions. I'm not sure if we'll have time to go through all of them. So perhaps because there seems to be an interest in the CAD, I will start with this one, Celia. And the first question is for you. Is the CAD open to all persons or only to institutions?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think in principle, yes, everybody that is interested in administrative data is welcome to reach out. And I think once you receive the presentations from today, I didn't share, or I just jumped through it because of time. There is a contact information slide as well. So I would suggest that you send an email to my colleague at UNSD and explain a little bit why you're interested in and what the background is. And then they will get back to you.
Excellent. Thank you for that. The next question there, I think it's for you, Vivian. That was one of the first points you raised. You spoke about Statistics Norway being a centralized statistical system. And the question is, what is the main difference between a centralized statistical system and a decentralized one? I mean, we do cover that a little bit in Module 1, but perhaps you can shed a bit more light on that. Thanks.
Yeah, I would say that I'm more an expert on the centralized statistical system, as we have been in Norway, but also in Northern Europe, where it is the statistical office that is responsible for the bulk of the production of national official statistics. And if we do not produce the statistics ourselves, we have a national statistical system that gathers frequently and update each other, so that which is led also by Statistics Norway, where we have a kind of central role in kind of coordinating, having an overview of what the other producers of official statistics in Norway produce. But then obviously there are other countries that are differently organized, where you have a more federalized structure maybe, where the statistical office maybe don't produce they only produce statistics on certain elements of the whole national statistical system, and this is kind of organized in the directorates or similar, produce the statistics on behalf of the national statistical system, and this is a way that each country has to find their own way in how to organize this that best fits their national circumstance.
Okay, thank you for that. I hope that clarifies things for this person. And maybe I know, Celia, you do have a bit of experience with other countries, perhaps those with decentralized systems. So there are some questions there related to how can a statistical agency without a centralized register-based system collect data with using administrative data? I'm not sure if you have any experience that you can share on that.
Yes, I mean there is, of course, it's a long process. I think we've been working with a number of countries, and the challenges, as you also will see through the collaborative, are quite similar in a lot of countries where it's a good idea to start looking at the statistical legal framework. That's a more long-term project quite often, but to see if this is actually allowing the statistical office to collect administrative data or not. Because if there is a strong and updated statistical legal framework, you're in a much better position to do that kind of work. But then at the same time, my experience is that no matter if it's centralized or decentralized, it's very good to have communication with the different ministries and start understanding each other, because quite often we work in silos and everybody has a lot to do. So if there is something new, you don't really, it's just an extra burden, and unless you understand that there's a clear benefit for both. So my experience is that even though in some countries production of statistics is quite decentralized, it's still very good to start this communication. And also, if you start the long process of updating your statistical legal frameworks, to pay attention to having the national statistical system included and a clear coordination role for the NSO. Because then even though the statistics are being produced somewhere else, you can still say, well, we are the coordinator, and it's great that we have a conversation about, for example, what kind of methodology you're using for your statistical production, all of that. And that then links back also to the use of administrative data, of course. I don't know if that helped, but the UK, for example, is operating in a quite decentralized way, and they make it work. So if you want to look at some examples, they are one that has a decentralized system.
Okay. I think this was clear enough from my side, so hopefully that brings some clarity to the participant. There is a question: administrative data owner includes only official ones. I'm not too sure exactly what is being sought here. Perhaps the person could bring a little bit of clarity to what exactly they want us to address in that question. And a similar question for you, Vivian. Was it easy to rely on administrative data because of the low number of population compared to other countries?
I think my answer to that would be yes. So I'm very humble that I come from a small country, 5.5 million persons, and to have an overview and to organize this is probably easier if you have a relatively small population. But I must add that in the Nordic countries, we have a system of exchange of data also across borders. So you can say that the whole Nordic statistical area is one area, at least when it comes to population statistics. So it is possible to also organize this for a larger part of the population. I've seen through the questions there are so many questions about quality and about how we the questions about the informality of the informal sector in the economy, and how we manage to cover this. And all this is probably, it's easier when you have a relatively small country, and it's easy to get an overview. But my response when it comes to quality and is you have to start somewhere. You have, and in our experience, it's better than to start to produce statistics from the different registers that you have. And then you will get a feedback and a response on that. Maybe the quality is not as good, but at least then you get a discussion on it, and then you can take it from there. This has at least been our experience from our system. Whether that's replicable for other countries, it's up to each national kind of circumstance to see that.
Okay, thank you for that. And I think it's good that you touched on the questions on quality, because there are quite a few of them, but there is a module on quality. So we will also have a webinar that will look into that a little bit further, but it's great that you were able to share some of the experience of Statistics Norway. There is a question related to public trust. Perhaps if you want to share anything, insights in terms of how, when administrative data is shared across the departments, is there any issue faced with respect to public trust as far as Statistics Norway is concerned?
On this topic, we should probably have given a long presentation because there are a lot of elements that is built into that. But in general, we have a data inspectorate agency in Norway that supervises, surveils that the different institutions follow rules on confidentiality and follow that. In Statistics Norway, we have become more and more aware of the responsibility that it comes with having access to and using these administrative data. So, for instance, when my colleagues in the population statistics division, when they produce population statistics, they don't have direct access to the ID number that from in the population. It is created a dummy number that they use in order to produce the statistics on the population. So the different the different experts in Statistics Norway producing these statistics don't have access to the original ID number, and that is one way of making sure that confidentiality is in place. And then we have a lot of other rules and instructions that we as statisticians have to follow, and I believe that some of these will also be covered in the course. Thank you.
If I can add, Synovia, maybe on the softer side, because I've lived in some of the Scandinavian countries as a citizen as well, or like as a resident, it's beneficial. So because all the data is shared, your life is much easier. You don't need to go to all the different public administrations and give your data many times. They share it. So for example, the taxes, you just receive an email once a year and say, could you review what we have calculated for you? And if it's not right, could you correct it? And this is very different to the experience of friends I have in the countries that are not fully linked. So I think also that helps with generating trust and buy-in for a system like that.
Okay, thank you for that, Sylvia. I think this brings a bit of clarity here. There are there are many other questions, but I don't think we will have a chance to go through all of them. But I'm just trying to pick through some of those that may be most relevant. There is a question there for you, perhaps, Sylvia, because you presented on Bhutan. Drawing a parallel to the challenges we face in East Africa, how did Bhutan overcome the initial resistance from local school administrators who view data entry as an extra burden rather than a statistical necessity? Were there specific feedback loops created so the schools saw the immediate value of the data that they were providing? I'm not sure if this is going to be an easy one to pick up on.
No, I think in Bhutan, actually, what I know from the colleagues is that there isn't so much resistance. So this is maybe not the best example, but I know that in Armenia, for example, I did some work when I was still with the Danish colleagues. And there it was about birth registration in the municipalities. And there was a huge problem with incomplete and incorrect registration. And I think the way they solved it actually was that they were in the end running workshops for the registrars and making it very clear to them how important the data entry at their level is for accurate population numbers at the national level. And then also they provided feedback to the registrars afterwards and say, this is going on in your municipality. For example, births are increasing, or some of the statistics would be sent back to them so that they could get a good and clear picture of their municipalities. And then I think you could really see a change in behavior, but it took sometime. I think they also had some campaigns. They printed calendars that were put on everybody's desk where it said your registration matters. So it was a lot of different small initiatives, but in the end you could really see a result. So I think it's also to not lose hope and keep trying. It's the same. I have an example with the customs authorities in Namibia also, that we had them in a workshop, and then they were like, yeah, we didn't actually think it mattered the data we entered at our end. But then, because they saw that it was so important at the national level, they also felt some pride in what they were doing. I don't know if that provides an answer.
I know that we're already on top of the hour, but maybe we can take maybe 2 more questions, especially because some of them are related directly to the presentation from you, Vivian, on Statistics Norway system. So let me see if I can pick out one that's quite easy, and maybe not easy, but one that you could probably easily tackle. So you spoke a bit about the unique identification system. So the question there is, who decided the format? Was it the NSO or the data provider? And what are the challenges involved in the adaptation of the unique ID? If it changes next year, how do you maintain continuity?
Yes, no, we have a very specific history on the development of our population register. It was actually first started in Statistics Norway. The administrative register was centralized and put on the auspice of the statistical office for the first years. And it was also Statistics Norway that developed our 11-digit personal ID number. So we kind of created that system. But after a while, we saw that when it's only the statistical office that is responsible for maintaining the population register, statistics is probably not the best incentive in order to have a good quality in the register. So after a while, we saw that it's better that the actual users, those who are the main users of these data for administrative purposes, that it's better that they maintain it and that they uphold it. So in the 1990s, it was transferred from Statistics Norway and over to the tax authorities that actually uses the register for personal taxation in Norway. And it's the tax authority who is now the owner of the population register. And we are only a secondary user of these data. And statistics is one of the benefits from the system, but there are so many others that the benefits from having this population register, where taxation is one, but also in terms of electoral rolls are produced from the who is entitled to vote is built on the population register, and personal taxation was mentioned, but also a lot of other administrative uses and purposes in the Norwegian society. And statistics is only one of many who use this system. Thank you. And it's not changed. It's been the same number the whole period of time. My number I was given my number when I was born in Norway, and it will remain so. After I die, it will still be the same number, and we will never delete the number. It will still be there for historical use as well. Thank you.
All right, I think we can probably wrap things up here. We do have a lot of unanswered questions, but we will try as best to see if maybe after the webinar we could address some of those and post some of them in the discussion forum. So with that, I think it's a good time to thank our 2 presenters for their very insightful presentations, which, as we can see from the chat box, they have sparked a lot of questions. And we hope that we have done justice in addressing at least most of them. So we are now at the end of the presentation and of the webinar, sorry, and we want to thank both Celia and Vivian for very ably contributing their experience, the wealth of experience that they've accumulated over the years, and their insights in this session. And I want to, on behalf of CEAP and the other collaborating agencies, UNSD, and the Collaborative on Administrative Data, also thank our facilitators and also as well our participants who are, let me see what the count is. We have 700, sorry, and 50 persons online. So thank you for being here. We are going to have the next webinar on the 15th of April. This is next week, Wednesday at the same time. So we hope that you can all log in and join the webinar. And thank you again for your active participation. And again, thank you our facilitators for making today's webinar so rich. And we're signing off at this point. Thank you and bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.